Based on the film Fever Pitch in the United States and the film Fever Pitch in the United Kingdom, I've decided to call in some of my friends and compare and contrast baseball culture in America to soccer culture in the UK. To do so, I've called in some experts. Notre Dame men's golf coach Jim Kabinski, a diehard Yankees fan. My roommate, Thomas Usher, born and raised in Great Britain and a York City supporter. And Chuck Spokes, a Kansas City Royals fan and a Manchester United fan. Let's see what these guys have to say. Affected your life?
Yeah, it's a good question. Really, it's the first sport I remember following when I was a little kid, 5, 6 years old. I remember the Red Sox and the Reds, Cincinnati Reds, 75 World Series. Having my grandfather watching all the Red Sox games, my dad watching all the Yankees games, and just the rivalry within the household. And I think the big thing was I was really attracted to kind of the numbers aspect of it. I could look at a baseball card, collect them, look at batting averages, home runs, or whatever. So it's just really interesting to me from the time of...
Well, growing up in England, obviously I've grown up with football my whole life. It's been, ever since the age of 3, I've been, until I was 18, I regularly attended football games on a Saturday with my dad. So I've been brought up just playing football. I didn't usually play many other sports. I started playing football when I was 6 and attending matches since I was 3. So it's been a big part of my youth and something that I've really enjoyed.
Baseball has always been very important to me. Growing up, I played a lot, so that was big for me. And I always went to games with like the dads on my team and my dad and siblings and stuff. So it was always fun to go to games because I would get to play and then kind of go watch the professionals. So it was a big deal for me going to the games to get to see like what it's really supposed to be played like. I felt like whenever I went to games, I always took away like something like, oh, I need to work on that, or that's what the third baseman's supposed to do in that scenario. So it was always fun, but it was always like informative too. And growing up, it was definitely my favorite sport to play. So it was great to go to like Major League Baseball games and get to see it at its best.
I think in England especially, because on a Saturday men go to football matches. I think it's because in every town, in every little hamlet, in every village, in every city in England, there's a football team. There's always a team to go support, and there's a lot of camaraderie between people in the towns. A lot of them really enjoy their own teams, and everyone goes to a match. And on a Saturday, men, women go do what they do, and it is stereotypical that men go to football.
Yeah, I think it's cool when you see. In fact, we were driving the other day and I saw a Yankees bumper sticker and I got excited and pointed out to my wife. And it's the same thing the other way when you see a Red Sox hat. You see, oh no, what's the matter with this guy? I don't know why I want to hang out with him or talk to him. So yeah, it's almost for Yankee fans. It is almost a religion. We talk about baseball, but just that feeling that you want to compete every year. You're trying to win championships every year. And there's a bond, no matter where you are. When you see a Yankee fan, there's a connection there.
The camaraderie amongst fans of their own teams is a lot higher in the UK, especially when you get to like the smaller teams. Like Fulham is right now probably the 4th best club in London. You could argue the fifth club in London with the most tradition because West Ham's probably ahead of them too. And yet people still get so jacked up for games. They get really excited for every match. And I think that's one of the biggest differences. You do see that with like the Yankees and the Red Sox and the big teams over here in baseball, but it's literally every team over there in England that has like their faithful following that gets excited for every match. Went to 3 games at Fulham, 1 at Wembley when the England national team played, 1 at Arsenal, and then 1 up at Manchester United Stadium in Manchester. And it's just unbelievable. Literally the whole city shuts down. Like they block off blocks for just like a regular league match in London for Fulham matches. They would block off like blocks around the stadium. They'd have cops everywhere, like the public transportation areas around the stadium to make sure everyone's getting to the game all right. It's really a huge event. Whenever a game takes place, regardless of whether it's in the league or a smaller cup competition, everyone just gets so excited. There's literally an energy in the city when it's going on.
Michael Owen, England played Brazil in the World Cup in the knockout stages, quarterfinals, I want to say, maybe last 16. He's going through on goal. It's only 20 minutes gone in the game. My friend sits on the TV remote. The TV goes off, so it's like a one-on-one chance. No one knows what happens, but we hear from next door someone screaming we put it back on and he'd scored. So like, I mean, everyone, like England football, everyone's glued to every TV, and you can't get away from the kind of the atmosphere. It's fantastic.
You've seen Green Street Hooligans is West Ham's about. Green Street Hooligans is about like the crazy fans of West Ham. They got some of the craziest fans in the country. And so when I first walked in, like they were already singing that song "Bubbles" that they sing, and I immediately got goosebumps and like joined in because I knew the words from the movie, like a typical American. But it really is just like an energy in the stadium when you first walk in that I don't necessarily think you get in a baseball game, and part of that might be the nature of the sport, and that soccer, like one goal is a huge difference, and it couldn't come right away. Whereas baseball, if you fall behind one run early, it's not that big of a deal, and everyone's like not on edge the whole time. There's more stops and everything, but the energy in that stadium was unmatched. I would equate it to I went to a Red Sox game in Fenway one time, and it was a regular season game. So obviously it wasn't at the same level as that West Ham Arsenal game, though it was regular season. But like when you go to a big baseball game here, there is excitement. Like Yankees Red Sox games, it gets that amped, but it's literally every game over there like that is like that.
One of the biggest differences in England is that you have one sport. In England, the national sport is football. You have some rugby fans, some cricket fans, but it's really a scatter, and everyone has a football club. Not necessarily everyone goes to a game, but everyone's associated with the club kind of knows. But I feel in America you've got American football, baseball, basketball, a lot of kind of divided in kind of who likes which sports. But I'd say if you're looking at baseball, I think it's interesting that I don't understand like how, I'm not sure if this happens in baseball, but like teams move cities, and I don't, or have done in the past, and in England that's just something I can't kind of come across. If a football team moved in a city, there would be riots in that city. There'd probably be riots in the city that they go to. It's hard to kind of compare.
Well, baseball truly was our nation's national pastime, and that's when it was the biggest sport. And I think that was just because it was so widely played. There are a bunch of different professional levels, so everyone kind of always had their baseball team. It was really competitive. You had personalities like Babe Ruth coming through, Hank Aaron later on, and I think people really latched onto that. And I think the reason that that's changed in our modern society is just due to the explosion of other sports, predominantly professional football that has absolutely blown up and is, without contest, the top sport in our country.
Well, baseball was number one, without question. Going back to my grandfather, whether it was listening to games on the radio and then TV. Mm-hmm. Actually, boxing was probably a close second at that time in history. Then, of course, football probably came on through the 50s and 60s, certainly the 70s. But going back to my grandfather, I mean, baseball was not only a national pastime, but every town had a team, every town had a player maybe that was in the majors they could identify with, and it just became more of a bonding thing, something to talk about when there wasn't as much going on with the internet and so forth. Mm-hmm. So.
The team that you root for is definitely way more true with English soccer than with baseball here in America. Because like I'm a Royals fan, that doesn't say much about me other than I have a lot to be disappointed about on a yearly basis. But like I go over to England and I'm walking around in London, I tell people I'm a Manchester United fan. They're just like, oh, you're a Manchester United fan. They kind of turn your nose up at you, like you're rooting for the big club. You're one of those guys. You're a sellout. So it's definitely, people judge you by who you root for in soccer in a way that isn't really equated over here unless you're a Yankees fan, because no one likes Yankees fans.
It's more than just support. It's that club represents you. You engulf everything about it. For instance, the Leeds United team stadium has a McDonald's in it. And because they have such a rivalry with Manchester United, there's not one seat or counter or tray is red, which is a McDonald's. I mean, it's the colour associated with McDonald's, but it's such there's such hatred towards Manchester United from Leeds that they completely ban it from the restaurant that they're in.
After hearing those great responses, one might come to the conclusion that, well, soccer culture is a little bit bigger over there. But regardless, after hearing the answers by these die-hard fans, there's no doubt that whether you're a baseball fan in the United States or a soccer fan in England, sports play a huge role in these cultures.